when the French sunk their own ships in World War II. To prevent the Nazis from seizing vessels in Toulon, the French Navy took an extreme step. French Navy officers opened the seawater valves and set explosive charges in ships anchored in Toulon in a hurry. It was not enemy ships but ships that belonged to the French Navy. Within minutes, hundreds of French vessels exploded and sunk to the bottom of the Mediterranean. German soldiers, who saw the explosion, were awestruck by the French sailors' willingness to sink their ships. It was the tragic part of World War II, where France had to scuttle its own fleet to keep the Germans from seizing it. The fall of France. With the rise of the Third Reich, the world faced another world war. After the invasion of Poland by Germany, France and Britain declared war on Germany. The Germans started to mass troops in the French-Belgium border. The German army used the less guarded Ardennes forest route and punched through the Allied defenses. At great speed, the German Panzer Division advanced to the Atlantic and split the Allied forces between France. At last, France capitulated to Germany. Germany split France into an occupied zone and a free French zone, later called Vichy France. The name came from its capital, Vichy. Vichy France was a puppet state of Nazi Germany and implemented racial policies as instructed. The desperate situation of the French Navy. French colonies around the world were under the control of Vichy France. The French Navy now fell under the control of Vichy France. The French Navy was the second largest navy in Europe, and British were determined to keep it out of Nazi control. The British had self-proclaimed Free French leader General Charles de Gaulle ordered that all French ships to surrender at a neutral port, or a British port. The Royal Navy had orders to sink or seize French warships under Vichy control. The British ultimatum came with a deadline. The biggest French fleet was in Algeria in the seaport of Mers-el-Kébir. The French officers at Mers-el-Kébir rejected the offer and promised that they wouldn't join hands with the German Navy. The Royal Navy didn't accept the explanation and attacked the French ships, killing 1,400 French sailors. The French Navy moved the remaining French ships in the port of Toulon in southern France. After Operation Torch, the Allied landing in North Africa, many Vichy leaders, including Naval Commander Admiral Darlan, went over to the Allies. Adolph Hitler realized he needed to occupy Vichy France to keep its government from changing sides. In response, Hitler launched Operation Anton. Operation Anton's main goal was to occupy Vichy France and support the German Navy's Operation Lila. Operation Lila's objective was to capture the French fleet in Toulon and hand it over to Italy, Germany's ally. Hitler wanted the entire operation completed without bloodshed. Operation Lila. As the German army started to occupy Vichy France, the French naval commanders realized their ships were a German target. The French Navy commander ordered his sailors to destroy ships to keep them out of German hands. The German 6th Panzer Division reached Toulon but faced significant resistance. The sailors who guarded the port refused entry to the German forces. The French commander, Admiral Laborde, from his capital ship Strasbourg, gave the Scuttle order. Laborde began negotiations to buy some time while the French sailors placed explosives on their ships. The Germans saw the flagship Strasbourg explode and concluded a ploy was in place. They rushed into the harbor to save the other ships, but it was too late. German soldiers and sailors ran from some ships because they feared for their lives. Some French submarines took to the deep sea to the shuttle while some vessels escaped to North Africa. The French sunk 164 ships in Toulon. Ironically, Free French leader General Charles de Gaulle condemned Laborde's action and stated the fleet should have come to Britain. The vessels burned for days, and the port was unsafe for swimming for 2 years. The Italians were not able to reconstruct the ships, so they took the metal for scrap. Some of the ship's guns were used for Toulon's defense when Allied forces landed in the south of France in 1944. Suppose the French Navy would have fallen to the Germans. In that case, it might have been a disaster for the Royal Navy and the US Navy in the Mediterranean. Luckily, the French kept their part of the British's promise and ended the Second World War sooner.